welcome to the Love Fashionably podcast. I'm so excited that you are joining me from wherever you are at. We are a podcast network here at BGTV Studios that, we gather, and there are podcasts that are happening all throughout the week. So thank you for tuning in to mine. Love Fashionably airs live every Monday night at 7 p.m. on the BGTV Studios Facebook page. So be sure to find BGTV Studios on all social media platforms and like, comment, save. We've talked about this before, but be sure to do those things. Also comment. That will help make sure that it pops up, and so that you don't miss anything, and it just helps us out as well. So that's just one small little thing. If you can just hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and that would really help us out. So thank you. Also, you can find me on social media at Love Fashionably, and then there's an underscore at the very end. So find me as well. I would really appreciate and love to have you follow along my day today. I tend to post a lot of random things, just things about life, a lot of fashion, just because that's something that I'm really passionate about. Thus the name, if you didn't figure that out already. But thanks for, again, being here. We are filming this actually on my off day. So on MLK Day and Inauguration Day, and I've been watching the inauguration, and I kind of had to pay a little tribute because I've been seeing everybody like super fancy and dressed up and everything. And I was like, I feel like I need to get myself today because everyone was looking so good. So a little nod to that. But if we'll be watching this at a later time, just that's a little fun reference there of what's going on. I know the last couple of podcasts that I talked about how I was really hoping for snow. We did get it, and unfortunately we were supposed to get it again this week, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I did get to see my snow. I do have some cold weather, and so I am loving the month of January. It is crazy how it is just flying by this beginning of the year. A lot of things are probably happening. I know they are in my life. They probably are for you as well. And so January always seems like the month that never ends, but it also seems to go by really fast at the same time. So I hope that everything is going well for you. If you have any prayer requests, be sure to drop them in the comments section below so that we can see them and pray for you. If you want to, you can say a prayer for me and my job. There's a lot of crazy things going on there, but we'll save that for another time. But just to go ahead and get us started a little bit as we jump into this, I do want to say hello to any of my 11th or 12th grade girls. You know who you are if you are watching. Hey, they kind of inspired this podcast and kind of what we were talking about. So this past weekend, I helped serve at this one-day retreat, and it was a prayer and fasting retreat for high school students, and just to kind of see their passion and their want to grow with the Lord and just to get to know Him better and to, just prepare them for the year ahead was really amazing. And at one of our sessions, the story of Jacob came up, which if you've been around a minute, then you know that that is one of my favorite stories. And I may have already talked about this. This podcast has been going for almost a year. And so you'll just have to forgive me if I repeat some of the same things. I honestly didn't go back and look. Like I said, life's been happening fast, so I didn't check it out. But it's okay. We all need a little refresher. And I do have a little bit of a different, I'm going to share, I think, a little bit more than I did the last time, if I did do it. Honestly, y'all, I really don't remember. But the story of Jacob and Jacob's life and how I think it's really cool how God put the story, included Jacob's story. Obviously, we probably won't know the full story of everything until we get to heaven, but I love that He chose Jacob and to identify Himself with Jacob, because if you aren't aware, Jacob has a, let's just say, interesting past. He wasn't very clean cut, if you will. Like when you think of Bible heroes, I don't know if you've really read the Bible if you just think they're all clean cut with easy lives and everything just worked out perfectly, because everything was really hard for them. And the story of Jacob, he really he made some troubling decisions. And God still chose to use him. And I think we can all relate on that level right there. Like, we could just wrap it up right there. Like, God's grace, goodness, Jacob messed up and God still used him. Like, that's all we need to go on. But it's a really cool and fascinating story of all the ways that it's kind of woven and detailed in there. So just kind of as a refresher on who Jacob is. So Jacob is the son of Isaac. Well, who is Isaac? Isaac is the promised child to Abraham. So Abraham and Sarah, we know that they prayed for a long time to have a kid, and finally, had Isaac. And then Abraham takes up, he's almost kills Isaac because following God's direction, and then God provides. And Isaac goes on, lives, gets married, and marries Rebecca, has Jacob and Esau. And so you may or may not know the story of Jacob and Esau. So Esau is born first, and we know that they are twins because it says Jacob came out grabbing at Esau, and thus his name, because Jacob means heel grabber, supplanter. A lot of the times you hear it as deceiver. But it means to trip up the heels, or it can mean the bottom of the foot. So he's grabbing at something. He's coming out into earth, grabbing and going after something that is not already his. And so we know that they grow up, and then the story, I have talked about this before, the story of Jacob and Esau, and how Jacob liked to stay at the house. Esau was a hunter. He would go out and hunt. And one day he was out hunting, and he came back and he was starving. And Jacob just kind of casually offered and was like, hey, I'll give you this bowl of, I don't know what it was, soup, and said, if you'll give me your birthright. And in the moment, Esau's like, dramatic. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm starving, I'm hangry, and give me that bowl. And he took the birthright. Well, he took it because Esau gave it up. And the birthright in that time was a lot. So that's what Jacob was grabbing for when he was very first born. He was grabbing at Esau. He was grabbing after the birthright. Well, he finally gets it many years later. And the birthright held a lot of significance in that day, because the birthright meant that it was like the older son. It carried, of course, the inheritance and the money aspect, but it also carried the authority. And so we go on and see that after this happens, he also tricks his father, and dresses up, because Esau, it said, was very hairy. So he put on, I think it was a goat skin, and goes into his father, who's dying, who can't see. He's lost his sight because he wants the blessing. So he got the birthright and the blessing. And so there was those two different things. But after this, he's really taken everything from Esau that he can. So he goes on the run. And that's where we're going to kind of pick up a little bit of the story. We're going to pick 3 parts of the story. So he is on the run and from his brother, because his brother's a hunter. So he's like, you've taken everything from me, so I'm coming after you. And so Jacob is on the run. And in Genesis 28, verses 11 through 19 is where we're going to start with our story of Jacob. It says, at sundown, he arrived at a good place to set up camp and stopped there for the night. Jacob found a stone to rest his head against and lay down to sleep. As he slept, he dreamed of a stairway that reached from the earth to heaven, and he saw the angel of God going up and down the stairwell. At the top of the stairwell stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your grandfather Abraham, and the God of your father Isaac. The ground you are lying on belongs to you. I am giving it to you and your descendants. Your descendants will be as numerous as the dust of the earth. They will spread out in all directions, to the west and to the east, to the north and the south. And all the families of the earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. What's more, I am with you, and I will protect you wherever you go. One day I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have finished giving you everything I have promised you." Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I wasn't even aware of it." But he was also afraid and said, "What an awesome place this is. It is none other than the house of God, the very gateway to heaven." The next morning Jacob got up very early. He took the stone he had rested his head against, and he set it upright as a memorial pillar. Then he poured olive oil over it. He named that place Bethel, which means house of God. And it says, although it was previously called Luz. So my favorite part, one of my favorite moments in that is where he says, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I wasn't even aware of it." How many times in our life can we say that God is in, when you look back, because he's looking back over a dream, when you look back over situations in your life and you're like, surely the Lord is in that place. And it's amazing that we get this amazing promise from God to Jacob when Jacob is on the run after what he feels like is probably, or what he probably feels like is a failure. He's messed up. He's going through a hard time. He's in a hard situation. And God speaks to him and is just like, I've already given all of this with you. I will be with you. I am with you. And I love that the beautiful promise of that God shares in there, because I think so many times when we encounter hard situations, and sometimes even like Jacob, we cause hard situations to come into our life, that we think that we can't turn to God because we think that we are, you just kind of think, well, he doesn't, because we don't have that right mindset. But this beautiful story lets us know that, no, God is there in that place, and he wants to be in that place. You just have to kind of open your heart up. Sometimes we even have to open our mind up to think that God would want us there, that God wants to be there with us. But at the end there, he set up a memorial pillar. And in Jacob's life, there are 4 major pillars that he sets up as he goes along his journey. He's traveling along all of these different places. But Bethel is very important. And so I love this story. So he starts out his journey at Bethel, and we will see later on that he's going to go back to Bethel. But after he kind of leaves this place, he goes on and he gets married, but he kind of gets tricked along the way from Laban, and he gets stuck working for his father-in-law, and then his father-in-law kind of takes advantage of him. And it's interesting that happened to Jacob. I include that because, Jacob was the one that was grabbing at things that weren't his. And he kind of had this moment happen in his life where someone kind of did what he was doing to other people. And it says, then his father-in-law, they were able to kind of work it out. He ended up, because what happened is he wanted to marry Rachel, but there was another daughter, and so the father-in-law kind of tricked Jacob into marrying the other one first, and so then he had to work longer to have Rachel. And so I think it goes to show too that sometimes I think our actions always have consequences. That sometimes like Jacob, he had done some things that kind of put him in a bad situation. God is redemptive. We have seen that already in Jacob's story, that God is redemptive, that he wants to have that redemptive moment with him, and that he's there with him through it. But sometimes when we do some things, there are consequences to our actions. And we can see that throughout the Bible and out throughout our lives, that sometimes we cause things to happen and we have to step up to the plate and handle the consequences. But God's there with us, and he walks through it with us. And so we're going to kind of pause for a moment here with our story of Jacob, because we're going to kind of do a 2-part episode here. So you have to teaser, to be continued, come back next Monday night. And we're going to finish the story of Jacob and kind of see where he ends up in his life. And this story of him on his journey where he starts out in Bethel, he goes through, he has some failures, he has some successes in his life, but the big moment is coming for him in the end. And so I hope that you will join me again here next Monday night. As always, you can find our podcast if you want to share it with someone. Be sure to hit the share button and share that out, because that does, again, it always helps us to kind of build BGTV Studios, and it helps out just my podcast, the Love Fashionably podcast as well. So be sure to share it with your friends. Tell them to tune in next time. And if you're watching on Facebook and you want to go back and see any old episodes, check out the YouTube page. That's where I like to tell a lot of people to check it out. So you can see kind of an archive history. Don't go back too far is always my warning, because I just started a year ago and I wasn't very good. And so I'm just kind of starting to still figure this whole thing out. So that's your fair warning. But thanks for joining me. Like I said, I love the story of Jacob, and I'm excited to kind of share this ending. So I will see you guys next Monday night, and I hope that you have a great week.